This is Smarter San Diego TV.
Our next guest has flown in today all the way from Dallas, Texas to spread her very powerful message. Please welcome to the show domestic violence awareness advocate, Tamara Reeves.
All right, here she is, all the way from Dallas, Texas. Tamara, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. You have a very powerful message that I saw on Facebook, and I was just like, wow, this is a big deal. Something that's lost in the presidential races and all the other things that are going on out there and the shootings and all that is a really, really big issue. Mm-hmm. And domestic violence specifically, something that you've experienced and now that you're speaking out about. And today we're going to go as far as we can, as deep as we can into this, because I believe today we're going to be able to bring some light to some people who currently feel trapped and that there's no way out.
Right.
So can we start with your story? Can you tell us just briefly?
Sure. I met my abuser at church, and we served on the same team at church together for a year. And of course, I had an 11-year-old at the time, single mom, so I did a background check on him. Just a couple of traffic tickets, nothing, alarming, but everyone thought he was a great guy, and fell in love. No signs that I thought at the time, The day we got married, everything changed, and he became just obsessed with me, manipulative, controlling.
So you were cautious in the beginning. You did a background check.
Oh, absolutely.
So you were being careful.
My 13-year-old prior to that had been raped. So I'd had experience with violence and people in this world that can be evil. So I had a hard time with trust. Very, very cautious.
But you fall in love, you get married, and then the day you got married, things changed, or right after that?
The day I got married, and the crazy thing about it is my best friend was my maid of honor, and I was in the dressing room crying with her right before, the ceremony was over. We had just said I do in our vows, and we're going to go take pictures, and he dug his thumb in my hand, grabbed my hand, and then said, now I want to see if you can run. Now you try to run away. And the joke had always been I was a runaway bride because I was happy being single with my daughter and had my own business, independent. I didn't need anybody. So, but I did fall in love with him, and I felt like that was, maybe God's way of saying, you've got a partner. Well, not so much.
So looking back on it, if someone experienced that same thing, in other words, if they got that red flag, maybe what seems like a little too late, the day of your wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything, what would you suggest someone do if they realize it, but it seems like it's too late?
So much that you need to do. For one, I was too nice. He was very pushy in the beginning of our dating relationship. And I pushed things too fast for me. You've got to listen to your gut. The instincts was telling me that things weren't right. And then he would try to tell me that, it's not the fear you're feeling, it's just this love that you've never allowed yourself to feel. Let your love just be free from once and just know that, someone's really going to love you as much as you, would love somebody, because you give all this love to your friends and your clients. I have a fitness business, and that's what I do. And he brainwashed me, looking back. He did, Derek. He brainwashed me. Adoration of gifts. And I think any single women out there, for me, I had to work 2 jobs to get started with my daughter. He would go to all her events when I couldn't go, so he knew exactly what to do. That's the manipulation. They're smart and they're cunning. They study you.
How do you spot something like that and not think that it's, without being paranoid? I mean, how do you not think that that's a normal, good thing?
It's too much, and like I said, it's your gut instinct. You've got to listen to your gut instinct. It's there telling you that something's not right. Even when you can't see, everything looks perfect. How could I even question this man? He's got a great job, he's willing to take care of me, my daughter, and he's giving me all these gifts. But yet, he shows up when I'm training clients, and he just something's not right, you know, and he's questioning sometimes my time with my friends, and always wanting to be with him.
It's a little overly controlling.
Overly controlling, but in a very subtle way. Very subtle way.
And there's there's different forms of abuse or violence, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You have verbal, physical, and emotional.
And financial and spiritual.
Sure.
It's all this web that is created to trap you. And then once you're trapped, that's when the violence starts. Now, I don't know if everyone experiences the violence, but I can tell you the financial and the mental and the spiritual is more painful than any kind of beatings I ever received.
And when you say trapped,
Mm-hmm.
what does that feel like for people who may not think they're trapped, but they're feeling that?
Yeah.
What is it?
You're smothered. You feel like everything is in their name. If you were to try to go, you know, your credit's going to be ruined. A lot of times they use your credit and then they won't pay the bills. They control, they set the stage to where when it comes to time when you might figure it out, it's too late. You just don't have any other options. You feel trapped. And society is not prepared to help you. They're not prepared.
Well, I want to talk about two things that I think are really important today. Number one is what to do if you're already there.
Mm-hmm.
And number two is how to prevent getting there to that point. So for people who might already be there, and it's mostly women who are in the situation. There are some men who are in the situation, but it's mostly women who are in the situation.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I looked up just doing some research for today was financial was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
That was where, you know, you would see like situations like yours where the man, you know, he takes in the woman and her children or child and says, here, you live with me, I'll pay for everything, you don't need to work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the first thing that happens. So it's a slight loss of independence, slight gain of dependence, and that's sort of the first step in the wrong direction. Would you agree?
Oh, that's the biggest step. I've got goosebumps. I've always worked for myself and been independent. And he convinced me that it was time for me to be taken care of. So when I did trust him enough to let him, he had a great job at the time, my business tapered off. And what I do for a living, you build it up and you retain that. You don't just stop training and doing what you've always done. But I did, and I trusted him. So when he was making a lot of money and all that, there was still the manipulation, the control was miserable. We had a huge home. We had everything you could ever imagine, and I was dying inside. He was making up things narcissism. He would say things and make it look like I said them and try to confuse me, and just the mind games. It was just unbelievable. But yeah, I think that's where it starts, is when you lose your independence. Deep down inside, I had a fire that I was never going to let anybody control me, and I knew the second I said I do after what happened, I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was going to go through something very, very hard, and I had no idea it was going to be as hard as it was.
So what's the first step? I mean, obviously your wedding day, the incident that takes place where your gut first goes, oh no, we're going down the wrong path.
Right.
It's very difficult for someone at that point in time to say, all right, redo, I don't want to be in this. But at some point, you did take a step. What does that step look like, that first step in the right direction?
I hate to admit it, but you have to get on the level of them to survive. You have to dig down and take care of yourself, hide money, do everything you can to protect yourself. You've got to realize it right away that you're in trouble. And as much as the words that they're spoken over you about, you can't make it without me and all that, kick those words out and replace them with the truth that you are a child of God. You're made in His image, and you can do all things through Him. I saved up money. I was training on the side. I was building my reservoir back up. And I relied on my friends and my clients when I started training again to hide money for me, to, this is 2 years after this, okay? This is a process. But I knew then that I was going to have to start preparing to get out, and society wasn't going to help me.
So what about, grabbing your daughter and going to mom and dad's, grandpa and grandma's house, or just getting away? Is it not that simple?
No. For one thing, I would never involve my family because I scared. I'm afraid he was going to kill me. He threatened to kill me. If I ever left him, if I ever said anything, he was going to kill me. And he was capable of killing me. This is a man that would throw me across the room, knock me unconscious, pull wads of hair out. Unbelievable things. Stick his fingers down my throat, trying to make me vomit and hold me down. It was horrible. Broke my hand. There was no way I was going to bring that into my family. And I didn't want to tell anybody. My mom and dad, it wasn't a matter of being embarrassed. It was a matter of protecting them. Now, my friends and clients, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. You're shameful that you're in the situation you're in. It's a reflection of your choice. So you start condemning yourself. And then that's what he wants. He wants you to feel hopeless and helpless. That's the goal.
Don't you think, though, that if you did tell your parents, that they would, don't you think they would want to know, that they would want to help you?
My daddy would have killed him. My daddy would have killed him. He would have taken matters into his own hands, and he may have had a heart attack. If he would have known what I was going through and what my daughter was going through, watching it all, it would have destroyed him. And I had to spare them. I had to know that I would be out. I knew I would be, with God's help, that eventually I would make it out, and I would go and tell them my story once it was all said and done. And that's what I did.
So what I'm gathering is, if you're in this situation, the only thing that you can really do is just fight, get the courage to fight and claw your way out whichever way you can. I mean, you started hiding money, doing things on the side. You were probably sneaking around a little bit, trying to figure out what you could do to hide resources and gather resources. But basically you have to, you said get on their level, you have to start planning, you have to start being cunning, you have to maybe even start, hiding, manipulating some things yourself.
You have to get into their mind, the sick mind, to get on their level to win. And I hate to say that, and that's why I'm fighting so hard to get these laws changed to where there's a different way out, because it's dangerous what I had to do. It's dangerous. And exposure is what they fear the most, that their image is going to be exposed. And they know that we won't seek help, okay? There's no help there, for one, but it'll make us look bad. And so that's just another way that they manipulate you. They manipulate the system. So that's why I have got to get this message out there to speak out. But before they can speak out, Derek, they can't speak out right now, not until I get some laws changed. There's nothing to go to. There's women's shelters. That's basically a prison, that they put your belongings and freeze it. You have nothing. You wind up I'm so appreciative of everything there, but that's not the answer. Then what? Then you're thrown back in the street, or you go back to them? Then you're even more in danger. When you take the first step to leave, you better leave for good.
You gotta be ready to go.
That's when it got really bad for me, when I tried to fight back. And I knew I had to get down on that level and let him think he won, and had a stockpile of money underneath the bed, my little satchel, and my safety plan with my driver's license, birth certificate. My daughter had already left and moved in with my ex-husband, and that's where I wanted her. He had me isolated, hours away from anyone, and it was a blessing, because I was able to pray 24 hours a day and trust in God to get out alive. And I barely did.
It's crazy. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Sharing this message. It's very powerful. It's a difficult message. We don't hear it. We don't see it very often. It really touched me, seeing your message on Facebook, which is why I said, well, we got to have her on the show. So ultimately, if you're there already, finding a way out, there are probably several different ways to do it, but mostly you have to commit yourself to it with some finality, saying like, this is it, I'm out and I'm never coming back. You got to have the resources there in place so you can do it. But here's the real difficult part, I think, is getting into the situation, right? Because that's when it's easier for you to leave. In other words, on your wedding day, if you would have just said, hey, everyone, I screwed up, I'm sorry, I don't want to marry this guy.
Yes.
It would have been a much easier way out.
Yeah.
So the sooner, the better.
Yeah.
But how, we kind of joke about it, sometimes you see like people watch The Bachelorette and whatnot, and you see these guys and some of them that might be a little over the top, saying I love you really fast.
Red flag, big red flag.
Things like that.
Yeah.
They're just all over.
The L word, I always say, dropping the L word, I love you. You don't love me after seeing me 2 times. There's no way you love me. That word still scares me to this day if it's used too soon, because there's no way that love is developed, and that's a huge red flag is the L word.
Yeah, and so those types of things, which a lot of women are just waiting to hear. They're dying to hear it. They want someone who stops by their work twice a day, or whatever it may be. But there's a fine line between, what women would consider a stalker to be, or their love. And it really depends on whether they're into the guy. Guys have this joke. They say, well, if she's into me, then this will be great. If she's not, then she'll think I'm a stalker. But so there's a really fine line there.
Yes.
and so I think that's something that on the front end of this thing, we can pay attention to. So tell us about some of those things, the things that people out there who might be getting into a relationship, might be early on in a relationship, that they can be looking for to identify potential red flags.
First thing I would say is be confident in who you are. They prey on, for me, I was very confident, but I was in a place in my life where I was starting over. And they look for the very sweet, forgiving women with a big heart. So first of all, be confident in who you are. Don't rely on anybody else to take care of you. And if someone gives you flowers, it's great. And but don't rely on that affection from somebody, because they smell it. These men prey on women that are hurting financially, or that have a little bit of an insecurity with their weight, or just stuff that they've gone through in the past. If you don't heal from something in your past that's gone on, you're more prone to fall prey to these men. First, just be confident. It's too much too soon. It's wrong. It's creepy. That they passed the creepy part, in my opinion.
For a lot of women, though, if it's someone that they like, or someone they've identified themselves with, they like that. They want it to move fast. They want to know. They want that security that, oh, he does love me. He does want to be with me. He does want to marry me.
That security, in my opinion, is them being able to give you your space when you ask for it. Giving you the time to go out with your girlfriends. I need them to think about that. Think about those times when maybe they have wanted to do something on their own, and he may be a little bit more persuasive to, let's just have me and you do something tonight. Those are huge red flags. They don't want you to have your independence. The reason being is because the more you have an opportunity to talk to other women, family, they might go, that's a little weird.
That's right.
So they brainwash you, and they isolate you. They get you ready right off the bat. And if these women can figure this out, it will prevent them from getting into what I was in. So that's so important to see that adoration. My daughter went through this and didn't even know it. There's women that are in abusive situations right now, and they don't even know it. They don't know what to look for. They have been taught by society that abuse is bruises, broken bones. That's not abuse. Abuse is taking away your power, taking away your power, taking away your identity. The plan is to suck your identity out and replace it with their sick insecurities, and they just take you over. They steal your identity in Christ and replace it with who they want you to be. You're a slave to them.
And so I think the main thing that we can learn from today is that maintain your independence.
Yes.
your own source of income,
Yes.
your own reserves, your own ability. Not that you have to have one foot out the door at all times.
Sure.
But you need to know where the door is.
Yes.
You need to easily be able to walk out of it at any point in time.
That and the confidence. They need to have their confidence. They need to know who they are. And when somebody tries to tell you that, that you're something else, you go, no, I know who I am. I know what my values are. Here's my boundaries. My boundaries were very, very violated from the very beginning. And I allowed them to be. But a little bit at a time, they see how far they can get, and they'll push their way a little bit further. This is somebody that would never allow someone to take advantage of me. I'm very street savvy. I love people and all that, but at the same time, I know when something's not right, and I'm not going to let somebody take advantage of me, but yet I was taken advantage of.
And just know early on, the earlier on that you notice that you can make a change,
Yes.
the better.
Enforce those boundaries. Something doesn't feel right and they're pushing too much, it's a red flag. They have got to respect your boundaries. That's the main sign I can tell any woman to look for, is that pushing your boundaries, making it to where what you would normally not accept, you're starting to accept a little bit more. Then they go to the new level, okay? And that's the manipulation. So control is first, and then manipulation. From there, you start to lose your identity. You start to change your thinking. You start to think what before would really bother you is not bothering you as much anymore, because it's all you know, it's comfortable. And yet you're not around your friends enough to talk to them for them to call you out. It's a very, very complicated situation, and society does not understand it. They think that it's a cycle of, poverty, that just these women take the beatings, that they're uneducated, and so therefore, why deal with it? Throw them some money here and there, some grant money, and that's not what it's about, Derek. It's not. It's much more complicated than that. Something has to be done in our society to stop this. There's women all over. I've had women reach out to me hiding in hotel rooms that are scared. They can't trust the law enforcement. They don't know where to go. And I can speak for myself. 3 times I tried to leave. 3 times. 2 times I did leave out the bedroom window. Scared to death. I had urinated all over myself, blood all over me, and ran down the street with a backpack and got to a convenience store, and I used their phone and called the cops. And when the cops got there, the first thing they did was they laughed at me and thought I was drunk and tried to take me back home. And so I screamed and cried and said, "You can't take me back home, he's going to kill me." And I said, "I've got a safety plan in my backpack. It shows that I've been in the shelter 2 days before this, trying to figure out what to do. You've got to believe me." So they had no other way just to take me to the shelter, Then on the way there, he hit on me. He gave me his card and told me that when I got through this, that the guy that was my ex-husband was a jerk. I deserved better. So when I got out of the shelter, to look him up. So that's what we're dealing with in society. So it's easier to stay in the situation you're in and survive than it is to ever live for a lot of these women.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful story, Tamara. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate your time
Appreciate it.
and all of your efforts in this, delivering this extremely important yet difficult message. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.